Hey you guys, it's Kristen and welcome back to the Gold Project. In today's video, I will be talking about my gluten-free lifestyle. I've been gluten-free since July 19th of 2015. So if you are not into the chit-chatty type of videos, this might not be the one for you because I've just created a list of different things that I want to talk about and I'm just going to sit here with you guys and talk. I am going to cover everything from why I went gluten-free to how I shop for me and my family, restaurants, resources that I use. All of that information I'm going to try to cover today in this video. Okay, so we are going to start at the very beginning, why I went gluten-free. Now, my husband and I moved to our town that we are currently in back in August of 2014. Probably about October of that year, I started noticing some tingling in my hands. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I actually thought I was getting carpal tunnel. I thought, oh Lord, I guess I use the computer and my phone too much. I'm getting that. So, and then it would gradually go away. Well, then I had to go for a wellness visit through Arkansas schools. Our insurance, you have to get a wellness visit every year. If you do, you get a little bit of a discount for your insurance every month. So I went and my doctor felt of my neck and she said, your neck feels kind of full. When you have a little bit of time, I want you to come back and I want to do some blood work and check your thyroid. I was like, that's a joke. I don't have thyroid issues. I'd always associated thyroid issues with needing to lose a little bit of weight. And that's my ignorance, I guess, because I didn't know anything about it. So I thought, whatever, that's not that big of a thing. I don't need to get that checked out. So I just kind of forgot about it and I was like, well, when I have a chance, I'll go. But, my husband coaches football. So usually in the afternoons, it's me with the kids until about 6:30 or 7. So I thought, I'm not taking my kids to the doctor just so I can get some blood work done about my thyroid when there's nothing wrong. So we're going to go on and we're going to fast forward to about January of 2015. Things slowly started to get worse. Now, granted, I felt like I had a cold since basically the beginning of the school year. So August of 2014. It was like I would get a cold. My nose was constantly runny. I would get a cold and then I would get over a cold. And I thought, oh yes, sore throat, hoarse. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to chalk it up to moving to a new school. That's all it is. I've moved to a new school, new germs and all that. So, they tell you when you start teaching that first year is the hardest because of all of the germs that you are associating yourself with. So that's just what I thought it was. New environment, new germs. So this went on all year with me having this cold and not getting over it. And I was like, I'm ready to get over this cold. So in about January, I think, of 2015, I got the worst migraine ever. I've never had a migraine before. Never. My husband has suffered with migraines, and I was like, migraines aren't that big of a deal. Until you experience one. I had the full-fledged. It started right after lunch at school. My head was like pounding, throbbing. It's like it had its own heartbeat. I get home. I straight went and took my bath. Went and laid in my room in the dark, pillow over my face. My head hurt so bad. The room was spinning. I could not see. I could not even see to go to the bathroom. I vomited. It was horrible. And it seemed like medication, I took some medicine and it still was not helping. So I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea why in the world I was having a migraine. So it finally got better. I had to miss the next day of work because it was that bad. So that finally got better. Then I started to notice, and I actually have a picture, and my husband took of me, and I think it was December of 2014. And I know it seems like I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I'm trying to cover every little aspect fully. So weight gain. I have always been, I'm going to tell you, I'm not ashamed to tell you, I have been 143 pounds since 2008. I had my daughter. It took me a little bit of time, but I went back to 143. I had my son. Took me a little bit of time, went back to 143. I just feel like that it doesn't matter if I diet or if I don't, my body likes me to be 143. I'm 5'8". So I thought, then I started gaining weight, and I'm like, my eating habits have not changed. I don't understand why I'm gaining weight. I tried to cut back. I still wasn't losing weight. I didn't understand what the deal was. Okay, I guess I'm 30. At the time I was 32. I guess I'm 32 years old, and I guess I'm just going to chalk it up to, my metabolism slowing down. So I'm going to try to do what I can do to lose a few pounds to get back down to my 143. Next thing, my nails were not growing. And I've never had really, beautiful nails that were thick and all of that. But y'all, they were paper thin. I mean, I could take them and I could kind of like peel them off. I mean, they just weren't growing. But I didn't know that I should look at my nails as an indication that something was not right with my health. So all of these things at the moment, from the migraines to the weight gain to my hands tingling to my nails not growing, all of that, I still had not connected any dots. And I was not looking at my doctor saying, you need to get your thyroid checked. None of that was registering in my mind. Well, then around, I want to say the beginning of April, I started getting to what I call, it felt like I was living in like a bubble or underwater. So I would walk around very dizzy, very lightheaded, and if I turned my head, it was like everything had to shake before it settled into place. So I would turn my head and then everything would kind of move before it came into place. And I thought, something's not right about this. I don't understand why I'm having this trouble. Well, then I was standing at my chalkboard one day, I was standing at my whiteboard one day, and all of a sudden I go to write and the entire room spins and spins back. At that moment I sat and I thought, I don't know what is wrong with me, but something is not right. That is not normal. I feel like that I'm going to fall walking to my desk in front of a whole classroom of students. So I immediately texted my husband and said, I think I'm going to call the doctor and see if I can go in today. I don't know what is wrong with me, but something is not right. So I go into the doctor that afternoon, and they ask me what's wrong, and I'm like, I really don't know. I don't know if I'm crazy. I really don't. I can't really tell you what's going on. And I kind of explained to her about, the migraines and the room shifting and being dizzy. And I would say brain fog. They associate that with like gluten. If you look up brain fog, it kind of makes sense. It'll kind of explain it if you look it up. But brain fog is where you have trouble concentrating. So I couldn't concentrate, and y'all, it got to where I would read something and I couldn't even comprehend what I was even reading. It was very, very scary. It felt like I was getting some kind of dementia or something, and I'm 32 years old sitting here. And I thought, okay. So she said, I'm going to do some blood work. We're going to check your thyroid. So I was like, yes, finally, maybe I can get some kind of answers to what's going on. So they called me like the next day or two and told me I had a low functioning thyroid. Now, she did not diagnose me hypothyroid. It was low functioning thyroid, and I was anemic. I have battled with anemia many years. I mean, I don't know why. I don't really even know if I have a family history, but I always battle anemia. So she said, I'm going to prescribe you a thyroid pill, and you need to get on a good iron supplement. So I did that. She said, I want you to come back in a month or two, and we're going to recheck everything, and we're going to see. So I went back, and I still felt like crap. So they checked my vitamin D levels, and my vitamin D levels were extremely low. So they put me on 5,000 IU's of vitamin D. So now I'm on vitamin D, thyroid pill, multivitamin, which I was taking, and an iron pill. So I'm taking all that stuff, and still afterwards, I still feel something's not right. So I researched everything. I had my husband researching it. And he came to me and he said, Kristen, everything that I'm reading says you need to cut the gluten. And I'm like, let me tell you, I am a bread eater. I could go to Olive Garden and just eat the bread. I can remember in high school, coming home from school, going into the cabinet and grabbing a loaf of bread and just eating it. I was a bread eater. I love pasta, all that kind of stuff. And I said, I cannot do that. How in the world am I going to give up bread? But so it took me a day or two to kind of get it in my brain that, I might need to do this after looking it up. And I thought, let me see if maybe that's really what I need to do. And you guys, everything that I am talking about today, like I'm fixing to give you a list of signs of gluten intolerance, I'm going to leave all of these links in the description. So if you want to check them out, make sure that you check those links below. And I make sure when I look up websites that they're reputable websites. They're not some kind of forum to where anybody can write in. They are doctors that actually give you good information. So, 10 signs on this one website were digestive issues. And I'm going to tell you with the digestive issues, I sat and I thought, y'all, anytime I sat and ate, we're going to take, for instance, Olive Garden. I would go and load up on some breadsticks. Then we would go to the mall shopping, and y'all, my stomach would hurt so bad, it would be cramping. I would feel like I needed to vomit. I mean, every time I felt like I ate, my stomach would cramp up. Keratosis pilaris, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'll put that down here. Basically, this is one thing that I didn't have, but it says your underneath your arm look like chicken skin or something. I didn't have that. Fatigue and brain fog. Yes, I had that. Autoimmune disease. Yes, that would be considered my low functioning thyroid. Neurological issues. Dizziness and being off balance. Yes, that was me. Hormone imbalance. Yes, I would say so because I had my acne was getting really bad. Oh, I even had very bad back acne. I could not get rid of the acne on the top of my back. I have never been one to even have pimples. I didn't go through that stage in high school to where I had pimples on my face and all that. And now I was getting pimples on my back. It was painful pimples. Migraine headaches. Well, had one of those and I knew I didn't want any more of those. Chronic fatigue. I would say I was tired a lot. I could feel like I could come home after working and go to sleep. But I couldn't because I had 2 kids. Inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. Yes, I did have some of this. And mood issues. So out of these 10, I had 9 of the 10. So after reading that, I thought, let's give it a shot. So I decided to give the no gluten a shot. And I had a friend that I went to school with that has been gluten-free for 3+ years now, and she has rheumatoid arthritis. So I messaged her on Facebook and got some information from her, how hard it was and how she did it, how she went to restaurants and all of that. So I was pretty positive about it after I talked to her and after I read about it. Now, you guys, here is what we read that they recommend that you do to test if you are gluten intolerant. They said what you need to do is you need to cut gluten completely for 2 weeks. No gluten at all. And here's the thing after reading that I learned. It's not one of those things to where, well, I won't eat gluten all day and then I'll have a little bit of gluten at night. 1 little ounce of gluten can throw all of it out. And it takes months and months to get gluten completely out of your system. So if you're going to try the no gluten, you have to do it 100%. You can't do it every once in a while because it's going to be pointless. And it's going to take a while for you to get the gluten out of your system. So I said, okay, 2 weeks. I can give myself 2 weeks gluten-free. You know, that's not going to be a big deal. So this is what happened. I went the 2 weeks, started feeling better, and said, I'm not going to go back on gluten. I feel better. I'm not going to do it. And that's what they said most people do. They will do the 2-week elimination diet, and then they start to feel better and immediately decide, I'm not going to go back on it because I feel better. And that's what I did. Since going gluten-free and all of that with my thyroid, I haven't had the migraine headaches. Y'all, my nails are actually growing. I don't have the brain fog. And I can tell when I eat gluten because sometimes I do get the brain fog. Sometimes my stomach does cramp up if I have gluten. I think like a week or 2 ago, I think I may have accidentally got glutened. And my stomach's been really crampy. I've got some pimples on the sides of my face. My hands and my feet have been kind of tight and tingly. So I'm thinking I may have came into contact with some gluten at maybe a restaurant where I thought I was eating something and something gluten-free, and really it wasn't. And you guys, here's the thing. You can go and you can have like a baked potato and it's gluten-free. Baked potatoes, you know, vegetables and all that are gluten-free. But you have to look at the spices that go on your vegetables, okay? Because they may not be gluten-free. So the spices are the main things. So I'm thinking that I had a potato that may have had some kind of gluten spices in it. So you kind of have to watch all of that. So that is why I went gluten-free. Long story. Sorry about that big long explanation. But that is why I went gluten-free. And I've been gluten-free ever since July 19th. I will tell you that even though I went gluten-free in July of 2015, December 2015, I still had stomach cramps every once in a while. I'm not sure if it was I accidentally got some kind of gluten or what. But I did some more research. And it said that you need to get on a probiotic. That one of my issues may be that I had leaky gut. And basically leaky gut just means that you don't have good bacteria in your stomach. So I got on a probiotic. And the one that I use and that I like the most is the Finest Nutrition Digestive Support Probiotic from Walgreens. And if you catch this at the right time, you can get it to where you can get 2 bottles for the price of 1. And I need to start taking advantage of that, even if I do not need a bottle, because this last time I went twice in 1 week trying to get this, and I still couldn't catch it when it was buy one get one free. So probiotic, I have recommended this to everybody, even if you don't have a gluten intolerance or anything. A probiotic will help with the good bacteria in your stomach. So I do not have the stomach cramps anymore thanks to this nice probiotic. So y'all have heard me talk about that in my favorites video, and it really has helped me a lot to keep my digestive system regular. One question that you might be wondering is, why did I not get tested for celiac? That's a question that my mom had. When I told my mom I was going to go gluten-free, she was very hesitant. She told me that she thought it was going to hurt me, because I really don't think that she knew exactly what I was doing. She just thought I was not going to eat any type of, basically anything it seemed like, but maybe fruits and vegetables. I'm thinking that may have been what she thought I was doing. So she was like, you need to go to the doctor and you need to get tested. But here's the thing. And I'm a part of some Facebook groups, and I'm going to make sure to share those Facebook groups with you towards the end of this video. And the thing that I learned is the celiac test is not always accurate. It will give you a false negative a lot of the time. And you can be gluten intolerant but not celiac. So, and I've heard in order to be tested for celiac, you have to go back on the gluten. And I just really don't want to do that because I'm feeling better. My stomach's not cramped up, you know. And that's a big thing for me because I'm telling you, I went through a long period of having some belly issues. So I just don't see the need. I feel better, and I really think that's what counts. what I'm doing is not hurting anything. I feel like it's helping me, and I feel like I don't need to be tested. Now, if you think you need to be tested, that is one thing that is completely up to you, but I have just chosen not to. That's not to say later on down the road that I won't choose to go that route. Now, let's get to probably what y'all want to know is how in the world can I be gluten-free and my family members not be? It is a little difficult. There has been times when I have wanted to go, especially in the beginning. I wanted to go to the grocery store and I wanted to stand in the aisle and I wanted to cry because it's not easy. At the very beginning, it is not easy because you're trying to figure out what has gluten in it, what doesn't have gluten in it, and cross-contamination. And y'all, that's the big things. Cross-contamination, you have to watch for that. Because your food may not have gluten in it, but if it somehow gets a spoon from, let's say that you go to a restaurant and they give you gluten-free pasta, but they've used a gluten spoon to stir the pasta. Now it's completely glutened. The pasta has now got gluten in it. So you have to watch with the cross-contamination. I have realized that you can't do it 100% because, especially if you go to a restaurant, you just don't know. So we don't eat out nearly as much as we used to. A lot of the meals we eat at home, or if we choose to go and get my kids a meal, like on Wednesdays, my kids like to do Wacky Pack Wednesdays. Sonic has Wacky Packs for half price, so we can feed both of my kids for under $5. No joke. So, but my husband and I will eat something at home. So how do I do it? A lot of times, if I'm cooking dinner, I will make it a gluten-free type of dinner. For instance, let's say that, like the other night, I made crock pot barbecue chicken. I just made sure that when I pulled up the recipe that I chose the gluten-free barbecue sauce and the gluten-free Italian dressing. So it's going to require a little bit of looking for you. Okay, so what I did was I went to my refrigerator and I pulled out the Italian dressing and I pulled out the barbecue sauce that I used. So this is where the grocery shopping, it's very tedious. I think the first time I went grocery shopping on my gluten-free diet, it seriously took me over 2 hours because I had to fill up everything and I had to look. And, sometimes they'll label gluten-free on the back, but even if they do, you need to look at the ingredients. And you're looking for anything that says barley or wheat. Any of those type of things contain gluten in them. So, like I was reading the back here, ingredients look good. And then if you look, and sometimes it's very small. If you look in the very bottom corner, it says gluten-free. And a lot of brands now are starting to label their gluten-free products, which I really, really appreciate. So I can just kind of scan through the ingredients and see it says gluten-free and be good. So this was the barbecue sauce that I used. And then the Italian dressing, I used Wishbone. Wishbone does label theirs on the back gluten-free. So normally if I'm making some kind of meal, I will write down what I need and I will go to the grocery store and I will have to look to see if there is a gluten-free option for that product. For instance, barbecue sauce or dressing. There's been many times when I've written down a recipe and I've gone to my grocery store and they haven't had the gluten-free option. So I have to scratch that off and start all over again. Now, spices. McCormick normally has gluten-free spices. So almost all of my spices are McCormick. I went through my pantry when I started my gluten-free diet, and I cleaned out every single spice. I just dumped it out because I did not know if it was, I had them in clear jars, so I didn't know what brand they were, and I wasn't sure if it had gluten in it, so I just started all over again with my spices. Now, sometimes I will cook meals to where I will cook myself a gluten-free option and my family just the regular. For instance, spaghetti. I'm a huge spaghetti fan because it's cheap. My kids love it. It's fast. It's great for when I have to go to work. So what I will do is the spaghetti sauce that I like to get, I think I have it. So the spaghetti sauce that I have to get changed. I used to be a ragu fan, but then they don't label if their sauce is gluten-free. So now we use the Prego. Prego always lists if it's gluten-free. So that's what we use for our spaghetti sauce. And it says on the back right here, gluten-free. And granted, I usually do take a quick glance. Once you start shopping gluten-free, it gets a tad bit easier, but I do always check. So I kind of know when I go to the grocery store now, Prego has the gluten-free spaghetti sauce. Pick which one you like, check to make sure it's gluten-free, and you're good to go. So it doesn't take me 20 minutes to stand there in the spaghetti sauce aisle trying to figure out what I can get. So this is the spaghetti sauce we always use. Hamburger meat, you're good to go on that. Meats are good. Vegetables are good. Frozen vegetables, canned vegetables are gluten-free as long as they don't have some kind of extra spice in them. And then the difference is this. I will get my family 1 pot of noodles. Regular, my husband likes the angel hair. And then I will get myself the gluten-free noodles. So I just make sure that I have a spoon that goes with their noodles and a spoon that goes with my noodles, and they do not touch at all. So I just kind of make different options like that. But normally if I'm cooking other than something like spaghetti, I will make the gluten-free option. For instance, last night we had, it was a breakfast type of supper. So bacon is normally gluten-free, and I like to get the Great Value brand at Walmart because they always label if their products are gluten-free. So their bacon is gluten-free. So we had bacon and eggs, and then I made chocolate chip pancakes. So chocolate chips, most of them, I got the Great Value chocolate chips because it was labeled gluten-free. And you can get gluten-free flour. So if there is a particular recipe, for instance, a cake, and you pull it up and it says flour, all you have to do is you have to get the gluten-free flour. This is the one that I get all the time. It is the Pillsbury's gluten-free flour, and it's more expensive than the other. And that's one thing that you will realize. Going gluten-free is a tad bit more expensive than just eating regular, but it makes me feel a lot better. So I'm willing to spend a little bit extra money to feel good. So this is what I do. I mean, y'all, I have pulled up a cake recipe, and it is called for, regular non-gluten cake recipe, and I've just made sure to put all of the gluten-free options in it. And it says if you make a, let's say, cake with gluten-free flour, to make sure it has the xanthan gum in it, whatever this is. I've seen that a lot, that they want to make sure that you have that. I'm really not even sure what that is, but I'll put the word right down here. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I apologize for butchering that name. But this has been a lifesaver. And also, Pillsbury has came out with a whole line of gluten-free boxed like cake mixes and things, and it's really not that expensive either. We're going to a party tonight, and I'm actually going to make the gluten-free sugar cookies. They have chocolate chip cookies, brownies, chocolate cake, yellow cake. They have a whole line. And I know if you go to Kroger, Kroger has an entire gluten-free section, which I really, really like. It's separate from the other, so I like that. But now let's talk about, so I've kind of talked about that. Let me talk about a few more products from the grocery store that I like to get. Now, cereals. Look for your cereals. Cheerios are gluten-free. Fruity Pebbles are gluten-free. Also, I eat peanut butter sometimes for lunch. And the Jif Whips peanut butter, which has always been one of my favorite. I wanted to jump up and down in the aisle when I realized this was gluten-free. If you see on the back or on the side, it says gluten-free right there. And you can get gluten-free bread. So I still have sandwiches, but you have to go and search for the gluten-free bread. Some of it's in the frozen food section, and I have learned recently that some of it is actually in with the bread. They usually just label it with a nice, highlighted label that says gluten-free, so you will know. And yes, it's a teeny bit more expensive, but once again, it makes me feel better. And for breakfast, I normally have this pure protein bar and a cup of coffee. And all the creamer that I have ran into lately has been gluten-free. I'm not sure if they are all gluten-free, but I know all the Coffee Mate that I have drank with my coffee has been gluten-free. And this is in the medication section. I mean, it's a protein bar. I'm not using it to lose weight. It's just filling, and it's easy on the go in the mornings. I was eating a different granola bar in the morning, and it had gluten in it, so I had to switch. So it just takes some time when you go to the grocery store to kind of realize what's gluten-free and what's not. Once you learn that, it gets a lot easier. Next, I'm going to talk about holidays, get-together, parties. Now, for me, I usually don't know if when I go to some kind of event if they're gonna have gluten-free food. So normally what I do, I will take a dish or two for myself. So like tonight, my husband and I are going to a coach's family party for the start of the school year. And I'm going to take gluten-free sugar cookies with icing, and then I am going to take a buffalo dip, because I know that is two things that I can eat when I get there. So I do the same thing for family get-togethers. Like at Thanksgiving, we always eat at my aunt's house. So this last year, I took this awesome pumpkin trifle that I knew I could eat. And then I also took, I think it was a potato dish that I could eat. So I knew I would have some kind of main meal I could eat, and then some kind of dessert. And I will do the same thing for, let's say, for Christmas, my daughter had a cheer Christmas party, so I took the pumpkin trifle to that as well. So anytime that we go to get-togethers, holidays, I always try to make a dish or two that I can eat, so that I'm not just kind of sitting there thinking, well, I can't eat anything. So next, let's talk about restaurants. And I will tell you, eating at restaurants has gotten a lot more stressful than it used to be. I could just say, okay, I'm going to go, let's go. Okay, let's take, for instance, Olive Garden. I loved Olive Garden. From the breadsticks to the salad to lasagna and their chicken parmesan. We don't eat there a whole lot now, because you just don't know. They have a gluten-free option now, but I'm just kind of leery because of all the bread that they do sell. So I do have to pick and choose where I eat, and I have a list of places that I usually do eat. And thank goodness for my family. They have been so patient with me through this entire process. Our vacation, they would always ask me, well, we want to eat here. Is there some gluten-free option that you can eat there? So I would always pull up menus before I went places. That is my biggest thing. I have to decide where I want to eat before I even go somewhere. So I can pull up to see if maybe they have a menu, or I can find out if they have gluten-free options. Some of the main chain type of restaurants do have gluten-free menus, and they're very good about it. Some places are not. So, like last week, I have eaten at Red Lobster before. Had no problem getting gluten-free there. Well, evidently, I don't know if their menu has changed, but last week, we go into a Red Lobster while we're school shopping, and it's my parents, my husband, my daughter, and I. We sit down, I ask for the gluten-free menu. They print me off a new one because they don't have one on hand, and I noticed there's like one thing that I can eat. I couldn't even eat a steak. Normally, what my friend told me is if you go somewhere and you don't know if they have gluten-free things, you're pretty safe with a steak or a potato. So I look at their gluten-free menu, and it says I can't even eat a steak. So they say, you want to get up and leave? And I'm like, no, y'all want to eat. So they seriously get up and leave the restaurant for me because I cannot eat there. So it's very helpful that I have family members that are patient and will work with me on what restaurants that we can eat at. Now, some of my favorite places to eat now are Five Guys. If you don't know what Five Guys is, they are a strict hamburger place. They don't sell anything but basically hamburgers. And their fries are put in a separate fryer, so they're considered gluten-free. Now, that's the big thing. Fries are normally gluten-free, but when a place, let's say you go to Zaxby's. I don't know if y'all have a Zaxby's, but Zaxby's, where I'm from, is like a chicken place. Their fries are gluten-free, but if they put them in the fryer with the same oil and stuff that they put the chicken in, then it's not gluten-free because the batter gets all over it. So you kind of have to ask when you go to a restaurant if they use a separate fryer for their fries. So I can eat at Five Guys. I just have to tell them that I don't need the bun. So they'll just put my hamburger in a little small dish, and that's where I get my fry fix. I love French fries, and I can actually eat the French fries there. That brings me to another place, Chick-fil-A. If I'm wanting fast food, I usually eat Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has a gluten-free menu, and they have separate, you have to ask, because I'm sure it's not that way for every one of them, but at the Chick-fil-A's I've eaten at, I have always asked the manager if they have a separate fryer for their fries, and they've been very knowledgeable about it, and every one I have been to has a separate fryer. So I'm able to get French fries, and I normally get the grilled chicken nuggets. So I really like to eat there. Also in town and in a neighboring town, they have a Mexican restaurant called Tamales, and they have a gluten-free menu. I mean, I can eat enchiladas. I can actually eat the chips and salsa and cheese dip. So I really, really, really like to eat there, and they are very knowledgeable. I talked to the workers before I ate there for the first time, and they told me that they had been through the gluten-free training. They have a separate area that they cook the gluten-free things in. The manager always brings me out my food separate from my family's. So that makes me feel good to eat there. Chili's, I eat there. They have a gluten-free menu. I haven't had any problems there. I just can't eat the chips and the salsa. Sometimes, if I remember, I will take my own chips in so I can eat the salsa and the guacamole that they have, because I love both of those things. Most steakhouses are okay, like Logan's and Longhorn Steakhouse. All of those places have gluten-free menus, and I've eaten all of those, and I haven't had any problems at all. I don't really eat a whole lot of fast food like Taco Bell or McDonald's or Burger King, Wendy's. Now, I have eaten Wendy's from time to time because I can have their baked potato, and then I'll just get the hamburger without the bun. But those are my top places that I like to eat. Now, I don't have this restaurant here, but anytime that I go to like Memphis or I go to Little Rock to visit my sister, they have a P.F. Chang's, one of my favorite places to eat, and they have a gluten-free menu. So I can get the rice and chicken fried rice like I like it, and it's gluten-free. Excellent. They're very nice about it. So in my experience so far, and my experience has not been a whole lot yet, but when you're going to a restaurant, just ask. Check menus before you go. Ask the workers. And normally, let's say I go to Dairy Queen. I can go to Dairy Queen and get a Reese's Blizzard. And usually the manager will clean the machine for me and make it for me. So, I am able to do things like that. Like I can get ice cream Sonic. I will get the same type of thing at Sonic. You can go to places like Andy's and get the custard with, but you just have to make sure you choose the toppings that are gluten-free. So I usually stick with like the Reese's Pieces or the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Also, one of the biggest resources that I've had for eating at restaurants has been Gluten-free Guide HQ.com. I'll make sure to put that right down here. Gluten-free Guide HQ.com. They have a lot of the main gluten-free menus for restaurants, and a lot of people have commented, so I've used that website a ton when I have gone out to eat at restaurants. So I highly recommend that for looking at eating out. Okay, we're going to talk about a few of my favorite snacks. Most tortilla chips, like the On the Border chips, are gluten-free. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are gluten-free. M&M's are gluten-free, and I'm not going to say every M&M. I know plain M&M's and peanut M&M's are gluten-free. Milk Duds, I will eat those. Reese's Pieces, did I mention that? Reese's Pieces are gluten-free. Those are the main like little snacky things that I will eat. if I'm needing some kind of chocolate, or I will get the little snack packs, the little chocolate pudding cups. Those are really good too, and I'll put a little bit of whipped cream on the top, because the little squirt whipped cream, all that I've seen is gluten-free. So if I need some kind of chocolate fix and I don't have the M&Ms or Milk Duds, then I will eat some pudding. Last thing I want to talk about before I cut this video, I know it has been long and I apologize, but I wanted to give you as much information as I could. First thing is, make sure you check out that gluten-free guidehq.com. Great place to learn about restaurants and gluten-free menus. Second, highly recommend that you become a part of the gluten-free Facebook group. Anytime I have been confused about if something was gluten-free, or hey, did this happen when you got glutened, great information. People are so supportive, are willing to help you, can tell you their experience. So when in doubt, always ask that group. And the last Facebook page that I recommend that you become a part of is thyroid pharmacist Dr. Isabella Wentz. So I will make sure to link all of that information in the description below. I'm a part of that. I know that the Dr. Wentz has tons of, she's written a book called Hashimoto's Thyroiditis, The Root Cause. I haven't got that book yet, but I've heard some great reviews about it. But she always posts excellent articles, and she is very knowledgeable, and I think she has hypothyroidism too, so I like to be a part of that to kind of get some information, and I think that may be where I found the article about the 10 gluten intolerant symptoms. So make sure you check the description for all of that below. So to kind of summarize, let me go through it. If you're deciding to be gluten-free, you've got to be 100% gluten-free, or you're wasting your time. 1 little bitty ounce of gluten will throw your whole system back into gluten mode, and it basically can inflame your system. So you have to be 100% or none at all. Make sure when you're grocery shopping, you read labels. Look for things like wheat and barley, and see if it's labeled gluten-free on the container. Do your homework before you go out to restaurants. Make sure to ask the workers when you go to restaurants about their gluten-free menu. Make sure you know if they have one or not, or what you can or can't eat. And make sure that when you were going out to a holiday get-together or some kind of cookout, that you have something for yourself that you can eat. I always like to bring my own dish or two. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me on social media. Leave me a comment below or send me an email. I will help you in any way I can. I hope you have enjoyed this long video. I apologize for the length, but I hope I have helped you with your gluten-free lifestyle. I hope you give this video a thumbs up, and I hope you subscribe if you haven't done so already. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and until next time, bye you guys.